Hi, my name is Sam Cusimano, and welcome to this MIDI Sprout tutorial. Today, we will be connecting our MIDI Sprout to a computer via a USB to MIDI interface. In this case, I'm running a MacBook Pro. Take the MIDI input connector from your MIDI to USB interface and plug it into the female MIDI jack in the back of the MIDI Sprout. The MIDI Sprout puts out MIDI signal, and you should attach that to your computer's MIDI in. In order to monitor the MIDI signal, I'm using the MIDI monitor from S-Noise. Download the MIDI monitor and open it up. Under the Sources tab and MIDI Sources, you should see the name of your USB to MIDI converter. In this case, it's MIDI in. I also have an IAC bus, which we'll talk about in a later tutorial. Attach the metal snap electrodes to your MIDI Sprout using the 1/8" jack on the front panel. Turn on the MIDI Sprout by turning the knob clockwise. Using your fingers, touch the electrodes and you should see MIDI data flow into the computer and a light show displayed on the MIDI Sprout. Let's look at the MIDI data real quick. Over here you're seeing note off and note on messages, as well as a series of controls. The MIDI Sprout transmits on channel 1 and transmits a series of notes from 32 through 97. So very, very high notes to very, very low notes. The controller value put out by the MIDI Sprout is on controller number 80, and it puts out values between 0 and 127. Now let's open up a MIDI program like Ableton's Live and send this MIDI information in to generate some notes. Ableton Live accepts MIDI information and can be configured in its Preferences panel under MIDI. Here you'll see each of the different MIDI ports that are accessible on your computer, and here is my EMU XMIDI 1x1 input. I'm going to click on Track and Remote. Next, we can check if we're receiving MIDI information into Ableton Live by looking at this small dot in the top right corner, which is the MIDI track indicator. Again, by touching the electrodes, we should be able to push MIDI data in. You can see that little dot lighting up, and if I slide this to the side, you can see here's MIDI information flowing in to our MIDI monitor. So let's try to get some sound out of Ableton Live here real quick. I'm going to drop into an instrument, grab something electric and fun like a piano. How about Vibes Soft? Dropping an instrument into the MIDI channel and clicking Monitor In will allow me to send MIDI data right into the channel. I'm going to specifically choose the MIDI device that I'm using here just to keep everything clean in my data, so I know that I'm using my EMU MIDI input. Also, looking at the channel listing, our MIDI Sprout only puts out data on channel 1. You can use all channel settings, but I like to be explicit, so I'm going to put channel 1 here also. So again, our monitor is set to in, so if we again touch the electrodes, we should now get some MIDI data going directly into the channel and hopefully producing some soft vibes. Excellent. So now we have tested our MIDI input, we connected it through USB, and we've been able to identify that we get a signal into Ableton Live. I hope that this tutorial can help somebody out as they're trying to attach their MIDI Sprout to their computer. Stay tuned and check out some of our other tutorials on how to use your MIDI Sprout and how to get connected. Thank you very much.